How was everyone this morning? Good. I have a few, first of all, questions. Raise your hand if you use an iPhone or a phone. So pretty much anyone. And everyone uses a computer, laptop. So you kind of use both of those things. So I'm going to talk about scams that happen with those, both those devices, and then also landlines. It happens with landlines. But I want to tell you a personal story that just happened to my wife and I a couple months ago. We moved down here from the Bay Area. My mother-in-law still lives in Palo Alto. She's 88, lives by herself. She's really active, and she gets out and walks every day. She reads and travels a lot, and she's very, don't tell me what to do. I can handle this. So we went up to see her. We usually go up every 6 or 7 weeks and spend the weekend with her at her house. Went up to see her, had a great time. Did a lot of stuff, and then we came back, and on the drive back down, she calls my wife and says, hey, you know what? I want to kind of tell you this because now I'm feeling nervous. I got this pop-up on my computer, and it said that the Microsoft had an issue and to call this number. So I called the number, and they said, well, you need to do a few things. Can you give us your address to your house, your birth date, and your social security number? Now, all this was happening while we were at her house on the weekend. And my wife said, wait a minute, we were there, but this was happening. And she goes, well, they said not to say anything. They said, don't tell anyone. You shouldn't tell anyone. We got to deal with this. And so they made it urgent. They made it scary for her. And for someone who's, feels that they, have it all handled and that she didn't tell us. And so they started getting more information from her as we found out while we were there, but never mentioned it. And then finally, my wife is like, Mom, stop. Here's what I need you to do. Delete that. No, go in. And she's like, well, this is what I did. And she's like, what else did you tell them? At the end, she never sent them money, but she had to call Social Security. She had to go to all her banks. She had to cancel all her credit cards. And it was a pain. And she was embarrassed, and she felt bad. And I think that's why she said it. And I think that's another part of what happens. And so what I want to talk about is just some things to look out for. And it happens to all of us. Really, you don't have to be in your 60s or 70s or 80s. No. You can be in your 20s. You can be in your 30s and 40s. So I did a little printout that I provided for everyone, and I put up some things that are really kind of red flags to look out for and to see what, if you get an email, if you get a phone call. And a big thing, like I mentioned, is urgency. So if they call you, if they email you, it's all about having to do it immediately. Don't ever give your social security number out. If it's an email, look at the email and see if you've ever received that email before. Do you recognize it? If it's an email, how's the spelling? Is the grammar correct? Or are there words misspelled? Is it kind of, doesn't look right? Yeah. Logos and other things. They will take logos. They'll take Wells Fargo. They'll take Chase. They'll take logos off the internet. They'll put it on the email. They'll put it on a text. You will think it's from your bank or your person. So a couple things that I usually say to people when I talk to them, or even my mom or my mother-in-law, is one, have someone in your family or a close friend that you can talk to first before you reply to anything. Show them the email, show them the call. Say, does this seem real to you? Ask them. Have them look at it and give you some advice to see if it seems reasonable. The other thing is banks will never call you. I work for Wells Fargo. I've been in the banking industry for 26 years. I've been with Wells Fargo for 8 years. We do not call customers. Chase doesn't, Citibank, whoever you use, we do not call our customers. We don't text them. We will send you a letter in the mail. That's usually how we want to communicate because we know this is going on. If you get a call and you think it's fraud, like I've gotten them. Hey, your credit card's been compromised. There was a charge. And they'll give you a number, or the phone number will show up on your phone. Do not call them back. What you want to do is take your credit card out, look at the back and find the number, and call that number and ask them. That's the only way you want to communicate with your bank. Now, if you have a financial advisor and you have a statement and their number's on there, reach out to them. Only call them. So what I would do is always kind of put a list together, like these are the only people I'm going to reach out to if I get some type of email, if I get a text, if I get a call. I actually got something in the mail that ended up not being fraud, but I took it so far so I got a thing in the mail that said I owed $300 to the county of San Mateo for a ticket, for a ticket. And I was like, if I get a ticket, I always pay for it. And I look, and it was this law firm out of LA, and I was like, showed my wife. I'm like, what do you think? And she's like, don't call that number. Don't, and it did say on the letter, don't contact the court. And I was like, that seems like a red flag. Well, what I did was I reached out to the San Mateo County Court, and I gave them my information, and it actually was real. It was a ticket I didn't pay for 3 years, but at least I felt... Yeah, and it was a ticket for not having my driver's license with me. So I don't know how I missed it, but anyway. But I ended up going, okay, and they said you can pay through the county, through our county traffic, website.org, and I went on it, verified it, and I paid it, and I have verification. But I now take anything I get that says I owe someone something. If it's too good to be true, it completely is. You're never going to have anything like that. So I also wanted a couple more things is, please raise your hand if you have any questions while I'm going through this. But does anyone know about freezing their credit? Okay, so a few of you. So what this is it's a free service with all the 3 bureaus. What I would do is I'd go to TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian. You can create an account and you can have someone do it for you, a relative, a friend, somebody you trust. They can create an account and you can freeze your credit. And what that does is if anyone were to get your information, steal your mail, or somehow get some information and try to get a credit card, get credit, they cannot do it. It completely freezes. No credit company or people that's approving credit for someone will be able to give you anything. Will give that person anything. So it allows it. And you can unfreeze it immediately. So don't worry like, does it take a long time if I need to buy something or do something? You can just log in, unfreeze it, and you can freeze it for a day, a week, a month, and it'll automatically go back and frozen. So that's one suggestion that I have in regards to your credit and protecting your identity. Yes? Correct.
Maybe not your social security number, but they said the best thing you can do is freeze your credit. I've done that for years. I forget, and then I tried to apply for a credit card when they were having a big deal, and rejected it.
Yeah.
What's going on? And then I went, oh yes, it's frozen. So you just go in. It's really easy to unfreeze it.
Yes.
And then you freeze it again. So that's the single most important thing you can do.
Agree.
If somebody does take your social security number, then
Yeah.
want to open a credit card in your name, and that prevents.
Exactly.
So how do you do it?
So you go to the 3 bureaus, you go online and type in TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian. They'll have a login. You create a login. They'll ask you specific questions that only are related to you. Like, did you have a car loan in 2010, and was it with this institution? Can you? Okay.
Hey, Rachel, can we get my flyer handed out? Because on that flyer...
Okay, great. So,
not to interrupt you, Bill.
no, go for it, please.
So on that flyer, is a QR code and a phone number for the 3 bureaus,
Awesome.
and
There we
you can use that.
I have a question. If I lose my credit
The flyer's coming around right now.
from using my card,
No, has only the only thing it does is that it allows someone not to create a new account or credit card for you in your name. Yeah.
So there's another level of freezing, just below freezing. It's like they have this, doing a second contact, I think.
I don't know about that. Do you know anything about that?
I have never heard that there's another level of freezing, but I can.
Less than the actual freezing.
Are you
Yeah.
saying you have to do each one?
You do have to do each one because there are 3 different credit bureaus. Depending on where if you wanted to go to Macy's and get a credit card, usually they'll just contact Experian, one of them. But if you wanted to get a mortgage, like through Wells Fargo, we check all 3 bureaus. So you'd have to, you want to just freeze all 3. And then I have some Q&As on the back, on the last page, that are kind of things that, may pop up or things that ask for and different triggers that you can go to and look to find out. But does anyone have any kind of other questions or things that they've dealt with or seen that,
I'm in the middle of this right now with my mom, and there's no way to identify who they are.
no.
There's not, we reported, every
Yeah.
we could report. Quickly, my mom was convinced on the phone. I don't know why she answered the phone. First rule is don't answer the phone. But it was the bank who contacted me. I'm joint on her accounts. Someone called while I was washing the car, and I looked at it and said, I have not been in the bank, and my mom's in another state. So I looked at her account before I called returned the phone call, and there was a lot of cash
Oh,
taken out of her account.
yeah.
And this was the guy at the bank who my mom had sat there for an hour and lied to about
Oh,
why she needed to urgently
yeah.
have all this money taken out. And she was concerned because
Yeah.
it was weird, and called me because I'm also on the
Yeah.
accounts. And so at that point, I just restricted everything
Yeah.
and did the credit bureaus on the phone.
Yeah.
But we don't know who called her. We don't know
Yeah.
who. She talked to several different people, saying they were various. I don't even want to share it. It's too.
Yeah. Usually they're from another country. Usually they are
So
not from the U.S.
like
It's
computers.
computers. They're just.
Find a person.
No, it's sad. It's yeah.
As a thing that happened, thank God she wasn't hurt.
Yeah.
But she's running around with.
Also, as technology grows, have someone that have some type of phrase or code that you can, if you call someone, you can say the code so you know it's them. That's another thing you can do with someone. Yeah, that's always a good thing. If it's whoever that relative is or the financial, just someone that you're saying, hey, I'm going to use you, but we're going to have this safe word between us so that I know if you call me from maybe a different number or a number, we can say, what's that word or what's that phrase, and then you know.
So at this point, I have to go up to Seattle where she is and go in with her to the bank because we're
Yeah.
both. I don't know if it's safe for her to use her same accounts. Do I need to change everything?
I would probably change everything. Banks are really trying to be aggressive on seeing activity on accounts, activity on credit cards, and if there's anything out of the ordinary, flag it, make a call, try to contact that customer in any way, or whoever they are is on the account. Yeah.
I received this email from Nordstrom and Nordstrom Card Services, that's right here. And I think it's okay, but I was suspicious. It says, don't
Good.
forget to update your password. I'm like, oh, password. And then Nordstrom card ending in 5558, Patricia, they know my name. last November. We restyled NordstromCard.com, so it's their website, I guess. So it's easier for you to access the account information and card management features you care about most. As it's been a while since you last signed in, you'll need to reset your password for security. And then it goes on and tells you how to
Does it
do
give you a
that.
link?
From the home page.
Yeah.
Select forgot password.
So I wouldn't use that. Even if it's real, I would go to a different device, log into Nordstrom, or call Nordstrom directly.
But,
And it might be real, but yeah.
yeah, I think it's real, but I didn't reply because I thought
Good, good.
Yeah.
yeah, seemed odd.
Yeah.
Something else. What's hard is to know online when you're reading through for different services, who is legit and who isn't.
Yeah.
I got caught on that,
Yeah.
except that I scammed the scammers.
Good for you.
He didn't get his money.
Good for you.
You can report it to the DA.
Oh, good, yeah.
Report it to the state licensing department.
Yeah. Well, there you could report it. I don't know if it's going to go anywhere, but
reported it to the FTC.
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know locally. I didn't call. She lives in a senior living place, so thank goodness there were people, who can help in real
Yeah.
time. But yeah, I don't know. I really am not sure what to do. Everything is just locked.
Yeah, I would just change everything just to be safe.
I think, let me do this. Let me throw out some additional information. Thank you, Bill. And then we'll save some time for some Q&A because I would imagine that some of the questions you have might possibly be answered by the information I'm going to give. So anyway, my name is Ruben Lopez. I'm a local attorney here with Falver Large, Archibald, and Spray, and I do estate planning mostly. But as you can imagine, in getting involved in estate planning, we hear all kinds of stories, Our law firm does all different types of law. Right now we're involved in a matter where there was an elderly gentleman. He lived in Hawaii. He was well taken care of by a woman that he was previously romantically involved with, but ended up just becoming friends with, and another younger woman who he had sort of a kind of a parental type relationship with. He ended up moving to a home here in California, met another woman. She immediately invited him to move in with her, and she invited him to pay her rent, pay to her rent. Isn't that nice? And then put her name on his accounts. And then, as you can imagine, she cleaned him out. So we're involved in that right now. And that's the sort of thing that happens. So what I wanted to touch on briefly, and by the way, thank you, Nancy and Rachel, for letting us be here today, and to the Grace Fisher Clubhouse. I wanted to touch briefly on what happens once you fall victim to a scam or a fraud. How many of you have ever fallen victim to any sort of a scam or a fraud? Yeah. Well, you're not alone. Even celebrities, this happens to. So the Bernie Madoff Ponzi scheme, I mean, in that whole web of deceit, there were a couple of celebrities that got involved in that too, namely Steven Spielberg and Kevin Bacon and his wife Kira Sedgwick and other people. So, everybody, it happens unfortunately to almost everybody. So if you end up a victim of some type of scam or fraud, the number one thing you want to do to protect yourself is try to reverse any monetary damage that has happened. There are two specific forms of legislation that were enacted to help consumers, and those are the EFTA, the Electronic Funds Transfer Act, and TILA, as you've probably heard of, the Truth in Lending Act. So the first one protects you if money has been taken from your bank account, and the second one protects you if money has been taken from your credit card. But the steps to take are pretty simple. The first thing you want to do, and as a preventative measure, as Bill alluded to, and I think it was mentioned over here, just monitor your accounts. Just be vigilant. It's really one of the best things you can do. And if you do see something that looks like it's fraudulent, then you want to report it immediately. And you want to request a reversal of those funds. These two legislative acts allow you, if you act quickly enough, to get that money recovered to you. And you'll work with your bank or your credit card institution to do that. You can file a fraud claim, and you certainly want to keep record of everything that has happened if this happens to you, and if you have to go through the process of reporting this to your bank or to your credit card company. Okay? The second step we already touched on, but I'll mention it again, this credit freeze. So there's three, there are more than three, but there are three primary credit bureaus, right? And when we say credit bureaus, we're talking about these big, giant databases, right? They have all of your transaction history. At any time you apply for credit or you open up a credit card, a car loan, a mortgage, whatever, student loan, it's going to go in there. Your history of payment is going to go in this database. And the three biggest ones are Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. They're on the sheet that was handed out. So what I did recently after having placed a freeze on my accounts, which can be done online, I was applying for a loan. I knew that they would have to access my credit once or twice. So I just said, put it on for 30 days. So it automatically goes on. 30 days it's unfrozen. I don't even have to touch it again. 30 days goes by, it gets triggered again, and it's frozen once again. It's kind of like what people say about, getting an alarm on your house or getting a dog or building a higher fence. I mean, if somebody wants to get into a house and you make your house or your credit a little too difficult for them to access, they're just going to go to the next person. And that's what you want to happen. You want to try to protect yourself that way. So the credit bureau information is on that handout that I gave you. There's a couple other things you can do too. There's this website called donotcall.gov. So it's a government website. I sigh because I've tried to do this and I put my name on it, right? And you still get calls. So people violate it all the time. But I have to believe that some legitimate companies are not going to call you if you're on that. They're not supposed to. And then you can report it to the FTC. But if you're getting called from overseas, then I don't know about the FTC's jurisdiction there. Yes, it does. There's another website, and forgive me for not putting it on the flyer. It is something to the effect of opt-out. If you do a Google search, I'll find it, but if you do a Google search for opt-out, then that opts you out of, supposed to opt you out of getting unwanted email solicitations, okay? So it probably can't hurt to put your email address on the opt-out site. Now, if you're lucky enough, and this doesn't unfortunately happen very often, but if you're lucky enough to know who the scammer is or who the fraudster is, then you have a couple of legal remedies. This actually is not as rare as you think, because any guesses on what percentage of senior scams and frauds happen from friends and family?
Wow, I would have thought the other way around.
Any guesses on what percent? 90. Those are all good guesses. It depends on what source you look at, but anywhere from 60 to 90%. Why? Because they have access. They have access to your information. So I'm not saying don't give your friends and family access, but if you happen to be a victim of a scam or a fraud, there are certain things you can do to try to recover the money. First of all, you can file a civil lawsuit. And remember that when we talk about civil lawsuits, we're really talking about trying to recuperate, in most cases, money, right? So the same advice applies. Speak to a lawyer, see what your options are, bring all of the, what we'll refer to as evidence, but it'll be all of your records of this fraud, and see what can be done to get the money returned to you, okay? In many cases, your remedy can be not only the damages, the money, but there can also be punitive damages, meaning they can apply additional monetary sanctions against the person to try to prevent them from doing this again. And in many cases, you can get your attorney's fees covered, okay? So that's what you can do on the civil side. And then there are also several criminal pieces of legislation that can also protect you if you know who the perpetrator is. And in that case, you would file a police report and or go to your local DA and show them your evidence and see if they can press charges against the person and possibly impose criminal penalties on the person for perpetrating the scam or the fraud. So again, trying to make your situation difficult for somebody to penetrate is very important. Do your credit freeze. Bill alluded to this, but I want to repeat it because it's very important. The number one reason why people allow this to go on is because they're embarrassed, right? It's happened to my mom. I came home and she's like, she's kind of biting her nails, said, I got to tell you something. Somebody called, said they were from someplace. She started giving them money. She got smart enough after a while. They had her on the phone for like half an hour. She kept saying, why do you need this? Why? And finally she's like, this doesn't sound right. And so, just have an advocate, Nancy and Rachel are really great resources for anything that you need that might pertain to buying or selling a home, but for anything really that falls under the umbrella of senior care, they'd be a great resource to reach out to see if you need an advocate just to assist in something like this. If you feel like you have some sort of a legal cause, you can certainly reach out to me or my office. My information is on the flyer. And finally, just again, act quickly, because the two pieces of legislation that I mentioned are really developed to help people try to recover, but your recovery grows the faster you act, okay? I'll open it up to questions. There's a question in the back.
Well, it's not a question, I just was gonna say that I check my credit card statements all the time, and you're checking to looks good. I noticed one day, back in January, that up at the top, you've got, the money that you've accumulated, 1% by buying things. I had about $400 worth there. I had been kind of, just noticing, I better count that in. One day it's gone. So in other words, all my entries, I've been checking and everything, called the bank, found out it had been taken out 2 months before. So in other words, check that too, not just your, your statement, but if you have any points that are accumulating, either cash them out or keep an eye on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they said that somebody called in and they took the money out and transferred it to my Wells Fargo account. I've never had one. You
Right.
can call it. I've never had Wells Fargo. They said, well, you better call over there, and I did, and they looked, Wells Fargo looked it up. Nope, no account. So Chase has just sent me an email saying that the case is closed, but I don't have my $400 back yet. But I don't know what information when they called that they gave, that they actually talked to a Chase person. Yes, I'd like to transfer these points to my, I don't know what it was that they used to tell this Chase person that they were me.
I don't know, but that's good advice. There was actually a question over here first, and then we'll go over there.
I was wondering why there isn't some law that has a trace of anywhere that you don't, whether it's calls or emails, like a reverse lookup for the identity of wherever something is coming from that's not legit. Like, before you could look up phone numbers, there was some reverse thing, and anyone that has an email would be traced, because even if you apply for anything, at some point you have to put an identity in, and why hasn't there been some legal action to make people's identity known when it is used for
legitimate purposes.
Yes.
I think this is speculation here, but I think that the difficulty then becomes protecting the identity of people who really legitimately deserve to be protected. But to comment on that, I think another important reminder, and again, Bill touched on this, just verify that when you initiate a phone call, it's a lot less likely to end up in fraud. So if you get something on your phone or text, or if you get an email, instead of calling that number, go to Chase and look up, okay, what's the fraud number, and then call that number. You're initiating it. You've looked up the phone number. Your chances of falling victim to fraud in those circumstances does drop. Was there a question in the back? I'm pointing at you.
I just have a couple suggestions. So one of the things I do is I go in my bank settings and I say, I want to get a notification of every single credit card transaction, more than $1. So whenever I'm out, it dings me. Whenever I'm, paying something online and it goes through, it dings me. So I know what transactions are being done as they happen. I don't wait to, well, can I check it this month online, my account or whatever. So that's something you can do. You can also, most credit cards now allow you, if you lose your card, to put an immediate temporary stop on it. I met a woman the other day who said, I don't know what happened to my credit card. I'm like, well, you know you can stop it. I don't know, she was old and waiting for her daughter. So I hope she found her card and that there wasn't any compromise. But,
I like that one.
so that's another thing. And I forgot.
Actually, you triggered something that I wanted to mention, which is wire fraud. Wire fraud is just rampant these days. And quick story. So the law firm that I'm at, when I started with this law firm, I was exchanging emails with the managing partner. And all of a sudden, I get an email, or excuse me, I get a text from an unknown number that says, hey, Ruben, this is the managing partner's name. Need you to jump on something for me real quick. I'm in a meeting. Need something to the effect of it. Need some funds wired over. And so clearly this was fraud, and I just ignored it. But the point is that they're very sophisticated. And what they can do is they can hack into your email account, and they monitor for things like exactly what was happening, where I was a new employee, and they thought I would be susceptible to an urgent request from the managing partner, and that I would accommodate his request right away. And that exact same thing happened to some clients of ours who were buying their dream home, and they were using $1 million, which was essentially most of their nest egg. Somebody had tapped into their email, waited for escrow to tell them to wire the funds, and then they emailed back pretending to be escrow and said, here's our wiring instructions. They thought nothing of it because they had just been sending emails back and forth to escrow, so it was just one more. They wired the funds out. It was a fraudulent account. We got the FBI involved. The FBI was able to recover the money, but they acted really quickly. But wire fraud is, right, Bill? It is crazy. So here's what you do when you're going to wire money. You have the wiring instructions. Right before you wire, you're sitting with your person at the bank. Right before you send the wire, you call. And you call the person, you get them on the phone, and you say, hey, John or Jane Doe at whatever institution you're supposed to be waiting for my money, can you just verify I've got the wire instructions in front of me? We're going to send it to this. Is this the right routing number and account number, whatever other wire instructions that you need, and then go ahead and wire it. But it is, it's serious. The wire fraud is out there, and it's crazy.
Rachel and Nancy, and in the real estate business, we now make sure that the buyers get wiring instructions verbally or walk into the title company. We say, we always say, yeah, you did your earnest money, like, you buy a house, you give the earnest money usually weeks before. We always say, do not use that same wiring instructions. Go back, call them again, and get it when you're ready to wire the remainder amount. So it's a very sensitive thing. The other thing that happens, and people wonder, how do they get this information? Be cautious about open Wi-Fi. So you're at Starbucks, you're at other places where Wi-Fi is free, and you can connect your phone, and it's so much easier. That's how they can get into your phone. That's how they can connect in certain places. So,
Do you have any idea what the end game is to talking an 86-year-old woman into withdrawing thousands?
what the end game is for the person receiving the money?
Well, she took the money out, and I caught her.
Before she delivered it to her.
I don't
think she
it
was.
wasn't delivered.
Okay,
It was
well, that's
just
good.
For her to take, it's really unclear.
What we see is either, like Ruben mentioned, a relative, a caregiver. That's the majority of what we see. They go into the bank with the person. oh, and they, kind of talk them through it, and they have them take money out or write a check to them. And it immediately goes to them. The other thing that happens is, like with my mother, they want them to wire the money somewhere else. So they call your bank or go online and wire the money here. So it's just really hard, and
Yeah, we have no idea like who
no,
or what the next
yeah.
step was supposed to be.
I have read, I again don't know this to be true, that organized crime have gotten very, very diversified in their business streams. And they actually have call centers where they will just have people call with the goal of scamming. And that's kind of what they do. And one of these scams, I just want to mention this really quickly, is where you get a call from someone and it's a panic, and they're in Mexico, and they're, maybe somebody's kidnapped them, and you got to send the money right away, and blah, 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 blah. Just be aware of that. Or if you really do feel like it might be legit, say, hey, okay, remind me your mom's name. What's your brother's name? It's just something. Just some sort of verification, maybe even 2 or 3 questions that, but it's very, very unlikely that something like that is going to happen. So, Rachel.
That question with the chunk of cash coming out, Nancy, reminded me of that one client that you had where someone came to her door and said, oh, I'd like to help you spruce up your front yard. And the gal said, okay. And he said, yeah, that'll be $4,000 for maybe $200 worth of bark. And she said, okay. So that happens. Another thing that I heard last week, it happened at Gelson's. A woman was pushing her shopping cart, and 2 people walked up to her and said, oh, can we help you find something? And she thought they worked there. And she said, sure. So one of them went to help her, and another one grabbed one of her checks, just one check, so she didn't realize anything was missing. They then took out a couple groups of hundreds of dollars at the bank, and this is going on in Santa Barbara. So I just wanted to share those 2.
The thing about people coming to your door to get hired to do work is just call Rachel and Nancy, and they'll give you a referral of whatever you need. Just say
Or
no.
Don't even answer the door. Don't answer the door. Don't answer the phone unless you know.
There was another, just one more. A plumber quoted one of our clients $7,000 to redo her plumbing to a home that was just rebuilt a couple of years prior. So she called Nancy worried, and so we had another professional go out, and he ran all the sinks for 20 minutes. They all drained properly. This sweetheart was 92 years old, and he said, everything's working just fine. So, second opinions are always good to get as well. But give us a call. We know a lot of good people.
Yeah.
How we doing on time?
Yeah. We have time for more questions.
I just want to say, if you're in an email, if you can hover your cursor over the email from the person who's sending it to you, hover over that, and it'll show you if it really says Wells Fargo, or it doesn't say that. If it's somebody else's, .gmail, you know that it's not right, and it doesn't match with what you're getting it from. So just hover over that, and it'll show you their actual email.
Mm-hmm.
So I just had a comment. So I make sure that my bank does the alerts on my credit cards. So somebody tried to use my credit card and they charged like $1,000 or some ridiculous number for like toys or something. I don't even have kids. And of course the banks denied it, and then they called me on the phone and said, did you authorize it? It's like, oh no. So and then the bank was very alert of that. There's alerts on your bank for your credit cards too. Like she was saying, that's a good thing to do.
They're pretty good about that, yeah.
Yeah, they're really good about that.
But again, if you're contacting them, and this bears repeating, just when you make the initiation of the call and you've confirmed the number, you're going to be even more protected.
I'm just curious what kind of AI is involved in these alerts. Like, you don't have people poring over your account like, wait a minute, that's not what Sue does. They have some kind of AI to trigger, right?
Internally in the bank? Yeah, so to give you an idea, every month I go through scams internally for just because I'll get emails, like them trying to get information out of me or getting into Wells Fargo's kind of protected. We have systems in place that look for unusual out of state or different places, just to monitor it as much as we can.
And there's some, a human
Correct.
assigned to monitor the red flag.
Correct. The good news is, the other thing is when you're paying for something, I always say, and I tell my wife this, don't use the debit card as much. Use your credit card. Because if there's fraud on the credit card, 100% the credit card company will replace that. You will not pay for it ever. You just say, this is not mine, and they'll take care of it. You'll be refunded.
Months later.
It may take months, or they may take...
No, I mean, that it could have happened.
Yes,
months ago and
yes.
still-
It could happen 3 months ago. We're pretty good at most. It's if you pull cash out of your checking account, savings account, and then that's where it's harder to get back. Yeah.
Yes.
Speaking of AI, and text messages, so you have to be careful now. So I got a message from Jen at my prescription insurance for Medicare, and it was like, oh, there's this, you're not up to date on your prescription, click this link or whatever. And I'm like, I'm not clicking that. That's not, who's Jen? But it did say welfare. So I thought, well, maybe I'll call him, but I didn't get around to it. Then I got another one from, Marie at Wellcare, and I'm like, okay, this is not. So I called them, and they said, this is legit. And I said, so is this your AI robot ladies texting without any identification, without any phone number, without, nothing? I'm like, no, I don't want that. So, the world is changing.
Yeah.
With AI. And
Yeah.
there's gonna be so much more scamming going on.
Even the voice.
Yeah.
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 Easily.
Yeah.
Okay, well, if there's no other questions, thank you very much. We're going to stick around and we can answer any other questions you have, but thank you to Nancy and Rachel,
Yeah.
to Grace Fitcher, Bristol Farms. There's more coffee and cookies in the back. Oh, wait a minute, raffle time.
Yeah, don't go anywhere.